Hey my darlings, I'm gonna do a bit of a life update. I feel like this is a little bit overdue. There's a lot of topics that I don't think I've actually properly sat down and addressed. I have been a little bit incognito, a little bit inconsistent lately. There are some things that I'm working on, there are some reasons why. But I just thought, let's do a little sit down, let's chat about it, let's talk about some of the things that I've been doing in my personal life. Yeah, I feel like the snippet that you get of me on TikTok and Instagram isn't the full picture of my life, right? I feel like everyone has this idea that I am a super put together woman, nothing ever goes wrong, I'm so organized, this, that and the third, and I promise you, no. The reason why I always say on here, we are in this together, we're doing this together, is because it's my first time figuring this out together too, like, yeah. Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly cover a couple topics that I wanted to speak about and fill you guys in on. I did put an Instagram poll up, so I got quite a lot of questions. I split this into like a girls chat video as well, because I kind of got a lot of general questions that don't necessarily fit into like my life update and what's kind of currently going on with me. So I kind of took some of those questions that were relevant to the life update video. I left the others for the girl chat kind of series, which are some really good questions. Like, that episode is going to be some tea. But yeah. But let's get into it. So I thought before we get into the update, let's take a couple steps back. Let's talk about where I left you guys last. What do you last know that kind of was going on with my life, and you know. So as you know, I finished my degree apprenticeship. That is what a lot of you know me for. I did a level 6 software engineering degree apprenticeship. It was a 4-year course squashed into a 3-year course, and I graduated with a first class bachelor's degree. Yeah. Yeah, so that's where I've been. That's where a lot of my focus has been. In terms of transitioning positions, I have actually officially been promoted. I am now a technical delivery analyst. I don't know if you know exactly what that means. When I first read the title, I didn't even know what that meant. But essentially I am a delivery analyst, and I also have the flexibility to pick up some dev projects and dev work. Just based on the kind of teamwork that I do. I'm under automations, which means that I can kind of dabble between like robotics, data analytics, visualization tools, reporting, and AI, which is kind of like the more exciting side of things. But yeah, so I've kind of transitioned from a more dev and software engineering role to a dev and analysis role. I'll get into how I feel about that, but that's just to kind of give you a bit of a fill-in. And I kind of wanted to give you a brief fill-in as to why I started YouTube, because I feel like I just started YouTube on like a random day and there was no explanation as to why. But more or less, I feel like TikTok is obviously my platform with my biggest community. It's where most of you guys are, where most of the girlies and the darlings have been and have just been supporting me. The main thing about my YouTube is I just wanted it to be another safe kind of space and outlet for us girls. The girls that are working hard, that are really on this whole self-development journey, trying to really understand themselves, but you know, across my other platforms you don't really get the full me. And as much as everyone likes to paint this perception that I'm the super organized, super put together person, don't get me wrong, I am, but there's also a lot of chaos that goes on behind the scenes, like, I'll be so honest. So that's what my YouTube's for. My YouTube's just show another side of me, show you a little bit more into my life, show you a little bit more into how I really navigate my day-to-day, you know, give you all the tips and tricks, the hacks, the things and the rules and the boundaries that I live by. Just show another side of me. I also wanted to come from the perspective of being a 9-to-5 girly. Like, I work my corporate 9-to-5. I genuinely love my corporate 9-to-5. It's not a thing where I hate working in corporate, so I'm trying to do content to get out of corporate. I actually genuinely love my corporate job. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that, I guess, to YouTube as well, and just be a bit of a guide for other women entering the corporate field or in professional settings, just to kind of show you a bit of an insight as to what that life looks like, how I balance it, what my life looks like outside of that. Yeah, and just give a lot of tips and tricks as to how to really navigate these spaces, from the perspective of a corporate girl who entered the corporate world from 19 years old, you know. So yeah, I guess that's like the intro, the catch up. I was asked, did you come to the UK as an international student? No. So I did my GCSE, my A-levels, like everything, my degree, everything was in the UK. Yeah, I've lived and studied and everything in the UK my whole life. Graduating and transitioning into full-time work. So if you didn't know, I finished my dissertation in August. I had my EPA, which was an endpoint assessment, in November, which is where I basically sit down with a university lead, my employer, or representative from my employer, which was my line manager in the end, and one of the assessors from the official assessing board. I basically sit down with all of them. I had what I call a professional grilling, where for an hour straight they asked me several questions about my dissertation, and then the second portion is about my work portfolio, which is essentially a bunch of essay statements which summarize different projects that I completed over the course of my degree apprenticeship in a work context that also ticks off specific criteria for my apprenticeship module side, if that makes sense. So I would have done my modules, which would have ticked off the actual theory criteria, and then my work portfolio ticks off the apprenticeship criteria, and therefore all together it comes together and give me my degree apprenticeship qualification. So that was in November, and then I got my grade. My grade was released in December. I found that out in Egypt as well, that I got first class, and then my actual degree ceremony, where I actually walked with my cap and gown, was in February. That just passed. So yeah, that is kind of like the timeline of everything. How I feel about transitioning into actual full-time work. I actually finished. It was a very confusing time period for me, I would say. I feel like when you finish something or anything like of the sort, when it was A-levels or GCSEs, you kind of go in this whole like, you know, let me go out, let me do this, let me go here with my friends, let me do this, let me do that. I didn't really have that. I kind of went into this weird period of time where I felt really confused. I wasn't used to having that much free time. I was used to kind of the whole because you guys know gym is a big part of my life as well. So I was used to doing my gym session, then working my 9 to 5, then coming home, then editing, then going to sleep. Or if I wasn't editing, I was studying for 4 hours or revising for 4 or 5 hours, or I would have an assignment to do for 4 or 5 hours and then going to sleep. I wasn't used to having the extra time. So like when I got back from work now, I wouldn't know what to do with myself almost, which sounds so silly when I say it, but honestly, it was like, okay, at this point and moment in my life, is this the time where I'm supposed to rest? Is this where I'm supposed to work harder? Should I pick up another project? Should I be more consistent with my content? Should I be filming right now? Like I just didn't really know where to put my attention and focus to, and I just wasn't used to that. I'm quite a driven person. I always like to be occupied, so it's like to not have something to take up my time, I just didn't really know what to do with myself a little bit. But yeah, starting your life after school. Also, I love your long ASS videos. Need more of that 2-hour SHIT. Thank you. I mean, don't get me wrong, the vlogs, guys, the vlogs are backed up. I'm so sorry, they're coming. It's just me editing everything. I promise you they're coming. I'm still new to YouTube, as you know. I just feel like long form is so much harder to edit. It's a lot more tedious. It requires a lot more focus. And it just takes a lot more time to get through editing it. So they are coming, just slowly. I have a weekly vlog just to show you like what my workout split is for the week, how I manage my time, what I do kind of after work, and just get a bit more insight into like what an actual realistic week in my life looks like, an ideal week as well, where I actually hit every single gym session I was supposed to, and I made my classes as well. So I have that coming out. I also have a January vlog coming out still. I know it's March. It's March. I'm not doing a February vlog. From February I start to do the weekly vlogs, so we're just, the content's coming, guys. As for when, we'll just have to wait and see. What's one tip you would give to the girls in starting their career? I mean, I'm going to take that from the context of like you've just started your first corporate job, or you're about to start your first corporate job, or what I would call like your first big girl job. I think the first bit of advice I would give is don't necessarily stress too much about your work obligations, because realistically for the first month to 3 months you're not going to get anything too consuming because you're still new to the company. And especially in corporate, there's so much going on, there's so many different departments, you have a lot to learn and process before you can even be reliable to produce certain work and certain things. So I would say your first kind of focus point when you start your first corporate job is literally understand the dynamics of your team, understand who in your team does what and why they do it, then understand the actual value that your team brings on a wider scale. So once you understand what your team does and who does what in your team and why they do it, then understand, okay, now I understand that, okay, what value does my team provide for the other departments? Like, who do we work with? Who are we valuable to? And then kind of work that way, which I think is known as like a top down. No, I think that's known as a bottom up approach, where you kind of focus on the little details first, then go on a wider scheme. I know a lot of people like to explain things from the other way around, but personally that confuses me, especially from the start. So I would digest it like that. Understand what role you're going to have to play. In order to really know that, you need to understand the dynamics of your actual team and the business value and deliverables that your team is really responsible for. And then on top of that, I will say you should be focused on the networking. You should be focused on knowing who you need to go to for what, why that person does this. Like, that is kind of your main goal, and making sure you remember names, because I'm really bad at names. So if you can remember names, remember names. What has been the highlight of your career so far? Lots of things, honestly, lots of things. Remember, I've been in corporate since 18, 19, right? I have learned so many lessons, humbling lessons over the years, but I've made myself so proud as well over the years with the amount of stress and the amount of responsibilities I've had on my back at different times. And when things had been going on in my personal life, like managing everything, I promise you, at this point I'm a pro with time management. Okay, whoa. At this point I'm semi a pro at time management and all of that stuff. And just dedicating my time, knowing when to say no, setting my boundaries. I feel like I'm really good at that at this point, and I'm so proud of myself for the things that I have achieved in my career, given the amount of workload I had to manage alongside that. So I'm gonna say there's several things, but if I wanted to like pinpoint on one specific thing, I would say my dissertation. Obviously doing a dissertation while doing a degree apprenticeship, it has to be work related, so it's actually a work project that does need to be done, but you're also doing it for your dissertation as well, if that makes sense. So I would say my dissertation was probably my proudest project. It took a lot out of me, it took a lot of research, but it was also something that I genuinely really enjoyed. It was AI based as well, so yeah, like I can't obviously say too much, it's confidential, but I really enjoyed putting that together. It took a lot of work and effort out of me, it really did. Like, it really took a lot out of me, but I was so proud of myself. Everything from like the design concept to the research, reading academic papers, doing my like comparative analysis, my evaluation, my critical analysis, like all of that stuff, and then doing like the cost analysis, the benefits, business value analysis, to testing, doing classification models, like working with AI testing methods, Python testing in Python, doing the actual development work, working with new frameworks, new libraries. It was just a whole thing. Like, I had to learn so much to just be able to even do the dissertation to begin with, but I learned so much along the process. I really challenged myself, and I think it really showed, and I got a lot of just like a lot of appreciation for it. Like, my line manager said some really lovely words about it in the end. Like, my teammates, everyone was just really supportive, and I really appreciated how much I grew in just doing that project alone. So I would say my dissertation. How did you learn programming? What were the difficulties, and how do you overcome them? Right. Learning how to code and program from having no technical background was probably the most difficult thing I have ever had to do to date. I'll be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I find it so ridiculously challenging. It took a lot out of me. It took a lot of just what is going on, like what is actually going on. Like that is how I felt for a lot of my coding modules at the very start. I just didn't actually, nothing was clicking. Like, you know when they say some things will eventually start clicking, nothing was clicking. Let me just put that out there as a disclaimer. I really found programming very difficult at the start. Things were not clicking, things were not making sense, and I was obviously in a cohort full of people that had previous technical experience, so it felt like I just started, but I'm already 6 months behind, like, or a year behind, let alone 6 months. Like, that's literally how it felt. So to kind of give you a bit of reassurance, if you've ever felt like programming is just really difficult to get your head around at the start, that is literally exactly how I felt. So if that brings you any type of peace, babe, I literally went through the same thing. I remember my first coding module, I cried real tears. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot of pressure. It just felt like you're learning a new language and you're expected to know the language in legit 2 weeks. Like, that is literally how it felt to me. So let me just say that first. In terms of actually answering your question though, how did I learn programming? What were the difficulties and how to overcome that? So how did I learn it? Initially I had programming modules, so it was that. A lot of it was also just self-teaching, so YouTube tutorials, doing kind of like free courses, just learning and really understanding the fundamentals. In terms of what difficulties did I face, I think one of them was that I was trying to just skip the fundamentals and get to the project work without really understanding how the fundamentals work. Don't get me wrong, if you spend too much time on understanding, you know, how to do if conditions or for loops or how to do a while loop, and if you spend too long doing that, you will never get to the project work, which is what you need to really understand how the programming really connects and how to actually apply your knowledge. You have to do project work. But if you also skip the foundations too quickly, the project work won't click, you know? So I think my issue was like thrown in the deep end in doing project work without really understanding the fundamentals. So I would really advise you understand the fundamentals first. Second, you understand it though, don't procrastinate there too long and get into project work. Project work will teach you how to apply your knowledge immediately. And when it comes to coding, it's all about problem solving, it's all about applying your knowledge. It's not about the same context in every programming system. You really have to be able to adapt your knowledge and your code to whatever the scenario is or whatever it is that you're programming in that context. In terms of how to overcome them, again, programming is all about discipline. Like, it's going to be tedious sometimes. Sometimes you will literally be stuck on the same bug for hours only to find out it was a little comma or it was a semicolon. It's stuff like that that really does grind your gears of coding and programming. But some things that I would advise is in your programming lectures, sit at the front, like be front and center, show that you're here to, you know, really soak in the knowledge. Let your lecturers know that you need a bit more assistance or you might need a bit more support, or ask them if they have any resources that they'll recommend that you use. That's what I did quite early on because, yeah, I really wanted to get a hang of this programming thing. I was used to just understanding things in A-levels. So going to that to being completely humbled in university was like crazy. Like, no one prepared me for that. So yeah, I would definitely recommend asking for extra resources. I know my lecturer recommended Code Wars, and then he also recommended like other project work. In terms of like specific courses I'd recommend things like She Codes, Girls First Girls is really great for leveling up as well. Not even that, just getting a guaranteed graduate offer afterwards. They do a lot of those programs, which is really great. In terms of other courses for like the men as well, I would recommend Udacity. Udacity I used a lot just because it really complements my learning style. So some people, I don't know, like some people are listeners, some people are visual. I very much learn by seeing an example, being given an example that's quite similar to that example, and then trying it, making a mistake, and looking at the marking scheme. That's literally how I learn best. And that's literally exactly how Udacity basically teaches you. There's videos, it's very kind of clear, there's animations, it's just very easy to follow, it's not confusing, and it complements the way I learn. So I would recommend Udacity. Another big thing that I wanted to kind of touch on was managing life. Yeah, I didn't put balancing life because I really have an issue with the word balancing. I feel like it just feels almost unrealistic in this generation. I feel like balance is something very crazy to expect when you have multiple passions, when you have multiple things that you're working on simultaneously. I feel like balance isn't really necessarily it. It's more just priorities, compromising. Yeah, like that's genuinely how I feel like I manage my time. It's really by making sacrifices, by making compromises, and you know, sometimes something has to give. Like, that is generally how I live. I don't feel like my workload has increased drastically from when I was doing my degree apprenticeship, which I'm very grateful for. So at the moment I'm pretty okay. I know there's certain days where, like, if we have a code release, you tend to be staying later. If I'm managing a release, I will be staying later. Yeah, so like there are certain days where it's a later finish for me. It might be a 7, it might be an 8, but generally it's pretty okay. So in that sense, I can kind of gauge the consistency in that. And I'm very grateful that I have hybrid working, so that also works in my favor. Like, the flexibility it gives me to kind of get other bits and bobs done throughout my day while I am working at home is really, really great. So balancing wise with that and social media is okay. I will say balancing social media with my work and life has become more difficult since I started doing YouTube, because YouTube is, it takes a lot more energy to edit. But again, it's just another thing that I'm taking on. It's another thing that I'm trying out, and we're just gonna see how it goes. I'm an overachiever. I'm trying to learn to rest. Please send help. Oh gosh. Do you know what it is? I genuinely cannot give you advice on this topic. When I tell you, if I could answer this question, I really would, but I genuinely can't, because I'm in the same boat, babe. Like, genuinely, I don't know how to rest. I don't know what it is. It's like, I will tell myself I need to chill, I need to take a break, and I will genuinely put on a film or put on a series, and then I'll sit back and edit. That's not resting. That's still doing something, and I don't know why I can't just switch it off. So I struggle to relax and chill out myself. I think over the Christmas period was difficult for me as well. I wasn't chilling. I was over here trying to do Safmas. Like, there's so many different things. Like I said, I think I'm addicted to doing something. I'm addicted to keeping myself busy, which is not my best trait, and I'm working on it. So babe, like, we're in the same boat. So if I find the secret, and if I find a little hack, trust me, I'll be the first to share it. But until I do, I'm in the same boat. I don't know how to relax either. So how do you balance your 9-to-5 life and also content creation? I've been struggling. Help. The little helps are sending me a little bit, but yeah, I mean I kind of covered this, but the first 3 things I would start with is consistency, authenticity, and your purpose, like value. Consistency doesn't have to look like 3 posts a day. I have never done 3 posts a day. I don't know who came up with that. That's never been my thing. Whatever consistency looks like to you, keep it consistent, basically. Whether consistency is once a week for you, whether a consistency is twice a week for you, whether consistency is once a month for you, whatever it is, be consistent in that, you know? So I'll start there. Then authenticity, just be yourself. Bring something new to the table. Like, you have a lot to give. Show that side of you, you know, in your content, in your creativity, and how you curate things. And then lastly, as I said, your purpose and value. Purpose and value, I kind of think ties into one. Like, why are you really creating? I feel like people tend to stick around when there's actually something that they're gaining from watching your videos. Like, whether that's they're laughing, whether they're learning about makeup, whether they're learning about a skill, whether you're educating them or something, whatever it is, people tend to stick around when there's something in it for them. Like, selfishly, it's true. That's the same as me as a creator. I follow other creators because of certain things that they do that I enjoy about their content, that makes me want to come back and watch their content. I would also say, in terms of like balancing it with your 9-to-5, I would recommend making content as convenient as possible. So for example, when I was doing Safmas, I literally had my tripods out all day every day. And it's annoying as well because I'm one of those people that I'm very minimalistic. I like my stuff tucked away. I like to be clean and tidy, but at the same time I knew that if every single time I had to film I had to take out that long tripod and sort it out, I was never gonna film. Like, there would have never been a Safmas, you know? So yeah, I would say whatever you can do to make your filming life consistent, like minimize the excuses as to why you can't film today. But yeah, another big topic that I did want to talk about is independence and just trying new things. So if you didn't know, I actually got my first car back in June, somewhere along those lines. Yeah. Someone asked me to discuss driving life and like how I'm finding it. Funnily enough, I actually had my driving license a year and a half prior to getting my car. The reason why I put it off so much was because my office, like, I can't drive to work, I can't drive to my office, which sucks. So yeah, I put it off for a long time, but I finally decided to get my car, and I promise you, when I tell you I'm not going back, I am not going back. I drive everywhere and anywhere under the sun. It's just like another piece of independence, and for me it's also like a safety thing. I know that I don't get worried about having to walk somewhere late at night anymore, or like, I'm just very responsible about getting myself to and from places, and I love having that responsibility without having to put that power in somebody else's hands. And when I say that, I mean, like, booking cabs is still dangerous. Like, booking cabs and relying on a Uber when I just met you 5 seconds ago is crazy. Like, that whole concept is crazy because people are crazy. Like, you can't just be out here trusting everyone. You never know what someone could do to you. And I've heard so many stories about things going left. So I'm just very grateful where I was in a position where, you know, I finally put the money aside and I finally got my first car. Yeah, so driving life has been great. It's been really good for just, like, I'm that type of person that's here, there and everywhere. Like, not, okay, whoa, pause. Not like that, but like in the sense that I will have a hair appointment at this time, I'll have a nail appointment at this time, I will have an aerial silks class at this time, I will have to run and get to my gym session at this time, I need to now make it to the station at this time. Like, I am that person. So in terms of like my errands days, it makes my life so much easier. Packages, all of that, so much easier. Grocery shops, all of that, so much easier. Are there any new hobbies you plan to start this year? So I'm so happy this question came up because I have actually started a new hobby as of January. So I actually now do aerial silks. If you don't know what aerial silks is, I'll try and put like a clip up. Aerial basically means in the sky, like not on the floor. And silks, you know what silks are. It's basically these two long silks that come from the ceiling. And it's basically almost like a form of calisthenics where it's a lot of like mind to muscle connection. Yeah, that is basically what I'm getting into. How that kind of came about, oddly enough, I know I'd seen a few videos of it and I was deciding on a new hobby to pick up just in general. If it wasn't this, it would have been figure skating, which is so random as well. But I just really wanted to try something that was really out of my comfort zone, that was really different. So because of that, I have actually put a pause on Pilates. I guess calisthenics training is a different form of training. It's something that is very new to me. I'm still warming up to it. If you know from like my Instagram stories or just my vlogs on YouTube, I have been going through it a little bit when it comes to just my muscles warming up to the different style of training that I'm doing. And I have been in a lot of pain. I've had a lot of like stiff moments. Yeah, I've had, did you hear that crack? Like, I'm literally, like, I have been in different types of pain, but not to kind of put you off, but I guess that comes with change and starting new things. So yeah, in a nutshell, I've started aerial silks. I started off by doing it once a week, then I moved to doing it twice a week and doing a dynamic stretch class a week. Now I do it twice a week with 2 dynamic stretch classes a week. And that's not including my gym workouts for the week. So I aim for 3 to 4 gym workouts a week. A back and shoulders day, a glutes day, and then a core and full body day. And if I make it on the 4th day, it's just strictly cardio. So I'm talking 60-minute treadmill and 60-minute stairmaster. On all of those days though, I try and add in my mobility stretches, which is like my flexibility stuff, which I kind of cover in dynamic stretch. And then I also try and do some of my calisthenic holds every other day, because I can't train those every day. But I'm loving it though. Like, honestly, to get into a new hobby, this is why I always advise people to like pick up a hobby or pick up something that you love and that no one has to drag you and beg you to go to, like you would do it by yourself. I've always been a very independent person in that sense. Like, I'm always picking up new things to do. I will go here, there by myself. Like, I just don't really need anyone to come with me. If I really want to do it, I'm gonna do it, you know. But I really recommend that you get a hobby or get something that really gets you looking forward to the next class. Like, at the end of silks, yes, I'm tired, but by that evening I'm already looking forward to next week's class. So I also really love like the instructors. I've made friends with some of the girls in the class, and it's just nice to see like familiar faces. Don't get me wrong, when I was in the beginner classes there were a lot of newcomers, which I get, because you're kind of just testing it out, you're just trying to see if it's something that's for you or not. But then when you see the people that kind of stick around, it's like, okay, you can kind of build friendships and build that kind of relationship. One of the girls in the class, her name's Jessica, super lovely girl. Yeah, I've made friends with her. There was another girl called Peace, super lovely girl. I'm excited to see her in the next class as well. And I guess oddly enough, it's the way of just making friendships as you get older. I feel like as you get older, people always say it's hard to make friendships in your 20s and whatnot, and I agree, but this is such a natural way to do so. Like, before it was Pilates, I'd make friends with people in Pilates, but my Pilates routine was less consistent, whereas aerial silks, because it's more of an intimate class, it's like I'm seeing the same girls all the time. So it's just nice to build those relationships and just have something that you kind of share in common that you're both working towards, I guess. Micro things that I'm working on improving. So as you know, if you saw in my Corporate Babe 101, how to live a life outside of corporate and prepare for 2025, I kind of broke down how I am setting out my goals for the year. So I only really have 2 major goals that I'm focusing on this year, to make sure that, you know, I'm not really going off track and I don't overwhelm myself. But at the same time, that doesn't go to say I don't have micro things that I'm working on, or habits that I want to maintain or even build throughout the year. So I thought I'd kind of share a few that I have been working on. First one being taking too long on small decisions. Guys, it's ridiculous. Like, when I tell you I'll be over here deciding what coffee I want for 30 minutes, okay, stretch, not that long, obviously I'm exaggerating, but I just take too long to make small decisions. It's just literally ridiculous. Like, stop it. Stop it. Not wanting to hurt someone's feelings. And I have no issue with saying no to people. It's not, I don't mean in that context. It's more just like, how do I explain? Like, when someone's just so lovely with their approach, I feel so horrible to just shut you down. Like, I feel so bad. Knowing damn well I don't want to be here, like I don't want to talk to you right now, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be on the phone to you right now, I don't want to, yeah. But knowing, I know that's how I feel deep down, but I'm just like, oh, but you're nice, I feel really bad. You know, like, maybe it's a bit of like my old people pleasing trauma, like trying to come back or whatnot, but I genuinely need to stop it, because I don't want to be here, you're wasting my time, and I don't want to say that to you. But rather than not saying that to you, I'm over here like gleaming smiles trying to butter you up, but I don't care to be here. Yeah, I need to stop that. It needs to stop. And the thing is, I know there's a nice way to let people know that I'm not here for it, but at the same time I just find it hard. Like, I just feel like I'm genuinely hurting your feelings, and it feels horrible. Like, I just don't like hurting people's feelings like that anyway. Not every moment needs to be a content moment. That one is a big focus for me at the moment, because of Safmus and just the extra time that I've now had since I've graduated. I don't know what it is, but in my mind I always like somehow feel like something needs to be filmed, you know, without realizing that, you know, just because you got cute today and you went out with the girls and you didn't get a content, like a whole day in the life of it, and you didn't film them cutting their food and you didn't get pictures, it's not the end of the day. Like, it's not the end of the world, you know. And I hate to admit that I've become one of those people that everything needs to be filmed and everything needs to, I'm not, like, don't get me wrong, I have boundaries, but at the same time I know that is almost how my mindset has become a little bit. Like, I kind of do start to think of everything as content and a content opportunity, when sometimes it's just not. Like, babe, you got a package today and you didn't film it, it's not the end of the world. You probably were not going to post it anyway, you know. So I'm working on that. I'm trying to just, you know, live in the moment a bit more. Yeah, and like catch ups with people that I haven't seen for a long time. Like, that doesn't have to be a content moment. Like, I genuinely haven't seen you for a long time, babe, just live in the moment. Like, that is what I'm trying to just literally keep a hold of, because I don't know why I'm over here trying to film everything and everybody. Like, no. Another thing being my flexibility and mobility. As you know, I'm getting into aerial silks, so flexibility and mobility is just like top of my priority list at the moment. Last on here, I've put faith. I put faith, and I also put in brackets, not a checklist moment. Yeah, I spoke about this recently with my friend Chi. Yeah, and it was a really eye-opening conversation. I was asking her for a bit of advice around like seeking clarity on something, and almost asking for clarity without asking for a sign, basically. And we kind of had a discussion and brought up a really good point about, you know, praying and it not being a checklist moment. Like, it shouldn't be that you wake up, I woke up, I washed my face, I prayed, I this, I that. But did you actually really soak in the word? Like, did you really learn something from what you read today? So I guess that's also kind of almost like a micro habit that I'm trying to focus on. In relation to that, I'm gonna kind of address the questions that I got related to that. So I also was asked about faith and religion. I was asked, what is your faith? I was asked about Christianity, and I was asked about Islam. Okay, I'm gonna say this once. I'm not gonna come back and circle back on it until I'm ready to. I feel like I know where these questions are coming from. I did a morning in my life recently where I started the video off with the fact that I prayed, which I don't really share often or at all really across my social media platforms. And there is a reason behind it. I feel like, again, faith and religion is something that is just very personal to people, very personal to me as well. Although I will say I do believe in God, I do have a faith, I am just not in a position where I want to share that a little bit. Like, not even a way to say, not in a way to say like I'm ashamed to share it, absolutely not. I will happily and gladly say, you know, by God's grace, you know, it's all written, like, if God wants this for you, to pray. I say these types of things all the time. But at the same time, I am very conscious of the fact that whatever I do put online, I am opening that door up for commentary and judgment. And I don't think that's something that I want commentary and judgment on, if I'm being quite like honest and transparent with it. And the reason being is because I have been in such a journey myself with my faith and my relationship with God, and praying. There's just so many things and steps that I've taken to grow my relationship in that sense. Something else I wanted to talk about was vulnerability within friendships. A lot of questions about making friends in your 20s. How do I navigate my friendships in my 20s? Do I have any advice for the girls with friendships and anything to do with that, really? So I will say, I have always been that girl that has had a best friend and then friends. You know, like, I've always had a best friend and then friends. That's just always been how I've been. I've never been that girl that's had like an entourage of friends. But I will say now, end of February, I had a brunch with my closest girlfriends, and it honestly meant so much to me. It was my graduation celebration brunch. They all showed up for me, and when I tell you, they are not just my girlfriends now, they are my sisters. Like, those, I admire every single one of those women. I love them so much. Like, I love them down bad. They are my sisters. Like, I love them so much. They have done so much for me in shaping me as a woman, and done so much in encouraging me and supporting me in ways that I just would have never imagined. Like, to the point where we're at the dinner, I'm literally about to cry my eyes out, and I'm surprised I didn't, because I'm very emotional in those contexts. But yeah, I will say, like, with time, you will find your people. You will lose friendships. Like anyone who's ever that close to me knows that I love you. Like, I have so much love for you, and I want nothing but the best for you. And even now, like, even though I don't want anything to do with you, I still wish you nothing but the best. But at the same time, I feel like, be very vigilant of people, be very vigilant of people's actions and people's words. People know what they're doing at the end of the day. People know exactly what they're doing. And I'm just not one, like, I'm really not one to sit down and play with people that want to act confused and act like all of a sudden we don't remember. Very convenient that all of a sudden these things are happening when all you had to do was put your pride aside and just check on your friend, you know? I don't have time for that. Like, no, I don't. Yeah. And especially when you value a friendship so much, to have someone do something out of pocket and then not even make the time to rectify the situation or even show a bit of effort, it's just like, I will say, when someone shows you who they are the first time, sometimes it doesn't always grant a second chance. And I had to learn that the hard way. Like, if someone is disrespectful, how many years down the line, how many chances, you're still disrespectful. You still haven't changed in that aspect. Also want to share is my anxiety. So strangely enough, I think I would say around October, November, December, September, October, November were just really rough months for me. How do I say, like, I just let a few things get on top of me, and yeah, it kind of threw me off balance. Things I didn't expect, like, it just, yeah, that kind of took a little bit of a toll on me. Kind of built up a bit of anxiety, I guess. Like, when it came back to having to socialize with people and, you know, be in busy areas again, I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety, and it was very difficult for me to kind of get over that. I was a bit emotional at times. In terms of what I did to kind of get over that, I feel like it took time. I had to tell myself to go in. I had to force myself to go in. I would coordinate the days that my friends would go in, so it didn't really feel too, like, I didn't really feel alone in doing so. And I just started to slowly open up and speak about how I was feeling and why I was feeling that way. I feel like when something happens, I really want to just process my emotions, and I find it difficult to do that. So the best way and answer for me to do that is just to isolate and really understand why I'm feeling that way, basically. In doing that, I kind of built up a lot of anxiety around getting back into socializing on a normal day to day. So my first day back into the office, I was very emotional. Like, it was a lot for me. I remember messaging my friends saying that I just don't think I can come in. I don't know, like, it was very much built up in my head. Like, I think I built up a scenario that just never came to life, and obviously I let that kind of control my emotions and put this kind of fear inside me or whatnot. So yeah, I would say my anxiety is a lot better now. That's also why I kind of had to say no to a few speaking opportunities and such at the time, because yeah, I just was in a different place, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I'm not afraid to share that. I feel like, again, you guys will think that my life is so put together from December, but I was definitely feeling more myself than ever in December than I had the last 4 or 5 months prior to that. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. I also wanted to say that, you know, that's how I kind of understood and realized that I really struggled with my vulnerability with my friends. I didn't open up, and when I did, sometimes I wouldn't really feel like there was that effort reciprocated to kind of make sure that I was okay. And again, that kind of comes from my, like, independent side, where I just feel like I can only rely on myself, so I don't talk to people about things. And it's because I just don't want to be let down, and I feel like throughout those months I did feel let down by certain friendships, but at the same time, you know, like, you have to communicate what it is that upset you. You have to communicate your feelings in order to, you know, build stronger relationships and stronger sisterhood. Graduation is something I've been skipping throughout this video. I've just not wanted to address it really. I had my graduation ceremony end of February. Did it go to plan? Absolutely not. I'll probably explain what happened on my actual graduation in one of my weekly vlogs or something else. I don't think I want to drag out this video too much more than it already is. But all I will say is I didn't have both of my parents at my graduation, and that was something that really, 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 really meant a lot to me. Yeah, that's what I'm really gonna say. And because of that, and because I found that out on the actual day of graduation, the whole day was a bit of a shambles for me, if I'm honest. Like, it just didn't go to plan. Everything was delayed, yeah. So I will probably explain that in a separate story time. But in terms of my actual graduation, like pictures and all of that stuff, and the actual evening and dinner, I had a really good time. I think the day progressively got better after kind of the worst of the worst was out of the way. So much love for my family, and I appreciate all their support. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave that here. I feel like this was necessary because in between all the kind of day in the lives and the vlogs, I know there's different bits and bobs that kind of don't match up and add up. So I almost wanted to just clarify a bunch of things in one place, cover a few topics. To everyone who sent a question as well, thank you so much. I did put an Instagram poll up, and that's where I got the additional questions in this video from. Other questions were all put aside for my girl chat video because a couple good juicy topics are in there. So I'm going to film that as a separate girl chat video. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a bit of an update. Where have I been? What have I been doing? Where have I been at? Yeah, basically. Although this year has gone so quickly already, I'm just really excited for what is next to come. You know, summer's around the corner. And I have a lot of exciting things in the works for my darlings. On that note, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next Corporate Babe 101 video. Goodbye, my darlings.